Welcome back to Reading Bear. Today, we will take a look at some new revenge stories. And if you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comments. Let's go!
The first one is titled, Don't Pay Me for Months. Enjoy unburying your car. Edit, this lady was around her mid-30s and definitely did not have dementia. She also called his phone and left an angry message after he did it, so she did recognize him. I understand this might not have been the most legal and ethical way to deal with it, but revenge is revenge. My stepdad works as a landscaper and does snow in the winter. He had many clients in one townhouse community. One time he had this lady who was a regular client at first, always paid on time, always polite, etc. However, over time, the lady started to get slow with her payments, and wasn't home when he was there. Eventually she fell behind, and when my stepdad went to collect, she had the audacity to say, "I have never seen you in my life." In a stern voice, not acting like someone with dementia or someone who genuinely didn't recognize the person. Afterwards he asked his other clients in the neighborhood about her and they all said she was insane. Cue the revenge. My stepdad makes it a point to recruit both of her neighbors as new clients. My stepdad comes back with his friend after a 1.5-foot snowstorm. There are two driveways to the left and right of hers, with way the townhouses are set up. He instructs his friend to blow every inch of snow from both driveways directly onto hers and they get to work. They purposely did this when she was home, and she came out livid. His friend pretended to not speak English and my stepdad said, probably with the biggest grin on his face, "I am sorry, have never seen you in my life." And left. The next one is titled, I Just Want You to Want to Be Here. I've worked in live theater for my entire professional career. For the most part I've specialized in video, which is a pretty niche thing. Not a lot of people that are drawn to live theatrical performance are at all interested in video. I was working at a large regional theater company as a video engineer. Said company got lucky enough to be the place where a show destined for Broadway would originate. This show has received a decent amount of fame, not like Hamilton, but you'd probably have heard the name if I said it here. The show had a lot of video. Like a lot. Specifically it had around 30 flat-screen TVs that were part of the set. They'd fly up and down, move across the stage, and display all sorts of content. We brought in a Broadway designer and his team of assistants to produce all the content. I worked most closely with the video engineer attached to the project, an NYC-based guy, we'll call him Chad. It was a big show for my team. The scope was completely out of our usual wheelhouse, but we had a lot of talent on our side. All of us put in some insane hours. Me and one other person had a couple of greater than 100-hour weeks during the build and load in. I in particular didn't get a day off for around a month, I think 29 days. It was a big show and we were all exhausted. Once we were in technical rehearsals, the large part of my job was over. Most of the time I was expected to be on site in case anything went wrong. In general, I'm totally fine with this. It's part of the job. We got to a Wednesday night, right at the end of that 29-day period. I realized I literally didn't have a clean pair of underwear to wear the next day. I talked to my boss at the theater company, local, and his boss, also local, and they gave me the okay to go home to do my laundry. I'd be back the next day at 8 a.m. I went to let Chad know what the plan was. I explained that I needed to do laundry, and that I hadn't had a day off in a month. He sighed, exhibiting extreme annoyance and disappointment, and said, "I just want you to want to be here." Well, duck you too, Chad. Seriously. He knew how hard I had been working. He knew how much I had been there. He knew there wasn't anything for me to do that evening. He knew that if there was a technical problem, he was more qualified than I to address it. He knew all of those things and didn't care. That was the moment any ambition I had to work on Broadway died. I had put my heart and soul into that show and had a relationship fall apart as a result, and he wanted me to want to be there? Side note, theater people can be really toxic about this kind of thing. If you aren't there every waking hour, people will turn their noses up at you. It's the one thing I hate about theater, that there's this cultish sense of a required level of devotion. That if someone treats it as a job and not a calling, they don't deserve to be there. Which is bullcrap on many levels. That said, if anyone is in the condition I was in, the hours and the lack of days off, usually they'll be escorted out of the building by their co-workers and have their keys taken away until they get some rest. Theater people can be cultish, but they do care about one another. Chad's actions were on a whole different level. There was no immediate reprisal. We got through the technical rehearsals, and the show opened. Then it closed, and moved on to NYC for an off-Broadway run before it got to Broadway and received much critical acclaim. The revenge story comes with the move to off-Broadway. See, I was the person responsible for boxing up all those TVs to send to New York City. This particular model of TV has a big rocker switch on the back, a master power switch. Knowing Chad, I knew that wouldn't be something that he'd check. So, I went ahead and flipped them all off, packed up the TVs, and sent them on their way. A friend of mine worked on the production in New York. Apparently, Chad got his crew to hang all the TVs and fly them up into position without checking anything. Apparently Chad then spent a couple days trying to turn them on, with remotes, with network control, even getting on an electric lift and hitting the power button, separate from the rocker. Nothing worked. Apparently, when he found out the problem, he was rather frustrated. Apparently he had been putting in some long days, and hadn't had a day off in a while. Well Chad, I just want you to want to be there. The next one is titled, A Grown Man Violently Yelled at an Old Lady because she took a parking space he wanted before peeling out into the spot next to her. He continued to go inside and slam our produce around. I was getting shopping carts from the parking lot, so I'm able to see a lot of the crazy stuff that happens. He wouldn't leave her alone as she sat in her car, clearly startled by the guy. He kept pointing and getting close to her car and yelling profanities and calling her names. Once inside, my managers told him to shop like an adult or to find a new place to shop. This wasn't enough for me. I noticed he parked by one of the cart corrales, metal things in parking lots where the used carts go. I noticed the corral he parked to was a little uneven, so I decided to fix it. Only issue was that the man's car was right on the line, so unfortunately I had to scoot the cart corral right next to his driver door. Enough room to walk to the door, but not enough to actually get in. I continued getting carts, and when I saw him coming out I hid behind an empty car about 40 feet away and watched through the windows. He wasn't happen. Slammed his groceries into his car from the passenger door and then crawled in from the back passenger door. He could have just slid the corral over, but he did it all the hard way for some reason. He then peeled out, pulled back in the parking space. Got out and looked around once more before getting back in and driving away fast as heck. I later saw the lady and she said thanks for checking on her, but she will be fine. She was super old and clearly startled though. Don't be an idiot in front of parking lot workers. We have nothing better to do with our time. The next one is titled, Don't Trespass on My Grandpa's Property. As a disclaimer, this story is about my grandpa, who's been passed for a while now, but it was when he was turning old and before I actually knew him. So, it was a while back, you could say. Anyway, let's get on with the story. So you can get a bit of an idea where we are, there are a bit of homeless people near where my grandpa lives. Some of them are drunk, on drugs almost all of the time, and some of them have plain no sense. This was back in the good old days, too. Anyway. So, we're starting off with the day my grandpa hears things being screwed around with in his own backyard. He asks himself, what the hell is that? So, he grabs his gun and steps outside. A homeless guy, probably high, is trying to get through his property. The hell are you doing? My grandpa asks, and the guy responds with, oh, I'm just passing through. Now, my grandpa isn't having any of that. I don't know why the guy wasn't scared off by the fact my grandpa had a gun, but then again, that's this guy's, probably high, logic. Good old grandpa tells him, no, you're not. Get off of my property. This guy ain't taking any of this, so he refuses again. Grandpa cocks his gun and aims for the ground in front of him, albeit I heard, aimed for the balls from this. He asks, well, rather, says this, it's not a question, him one more time. Get off my property or I will shoot. This guy refuses again, and so my grandpa shot at the gravel in front of him. Not nearly as badass as I remember it. I don't know exactly what happens after that, but the cops were called. My grandpa got to keep the gun, despite near shooting the guy, because he's an old man with pretty much no other means of defending himself from high people. Anyway, this is pretty much all I can remember being told from my family. The next one is titled, Noisy Neighbors Get Paid in Kind. I live in a very old building. Each floor has 3 apartments, and the middle one, where I also live, only has windows in the living room and the bedroom. Between the kitchen and the bathroom there is a ventilator, which is like a vertical tube that runs through all building floors, and the kitchen and bathroom have small windows towards that area. It goes without saying that soundproofing was not the first thing in mind when this was designed. Overall, the building is rather quiet, and even though I don't know my neighbors, I think we all have the unspoken understanding that we should all try to be quiet when possible. But even when some resident needs to be loud for some reason, it's usually okay because it's not recurring. All residents but the 2 that live directly below me. These people keep their internal windows open at all times. It's fine to hear the occasional dialogue, I mean they are in their house, but they always chill there and sometimes yell to each other or their kids, minor and petty stuff. The kids are adults and yell back. Worst of all, they don't keep their bathroom window closed while they're using it, so we are blessed with the whole symphony. It's kind of disgusting, and I always have headphones on when I'm in the kitchen, window closed, but sometimes I just have to open it for some time and then they strike again. Recently an opportunity presented itself. I got sick a few days ago, stomach bug. But, you know, with everything going on, I should be extra careful at all times, right? I should ventilate all my spaces, and I should have the bathroom always accessible. Then came last Sunday. Sunday is usually a big deal for families here, and they were having their children over. I was feeling a tiny bit better, and timed my attack at the time of their lunch with family. All my agony was worth it when I heard one of the kids go ducking seriously, and some pretend gagging noises. Hope that teaches them to close their windows every once in a while. The next one is titled, Try to Scam Me? I will spam you. I am an illustrator and I have a small website where I sell tees that I designed. It is a passion project and doesn't bring me any income. I occasionally will get an email from the contact form on my website telling me that my CO needs work and they can bring me 1,000s of sales with their marketing team. One day I got an email that was so pathetically a copy and paste, and even addressed me as the store name, and got that wrong. In trying to look official, their email was something like noreply@gmail. The message itself annoyed me with these fake claims over overnight success and over 100,000 sales, and my site wasn't well done and wouldn't achieve this without him. Since the email was at noreply, I decided to sign it up for few newsletters from companies that hound you for donations. Maybe it is an unchecked email address he uses to just put in forms. I'd like to think he got a surprise when opening his inbox. But one of the sites required a phone number, so he probably got a lovely text or phone call to follow up with his interest. The next one is titled, Lie to Insurance Company About Accident, Get Caught for Insurance Fraud. So last month I was in an accident where this guy misjudged his turn radius leaving a parking lot and hit my back bumper. His car was completely ducked on the right side, his front right tire popped, and the entire right side of his car from completely scratched and streaked with my red car paint. I knew there was already some weird shit going on because when he pulled over, 2 Korean dudes come out of his car and literally just walk away. Keep in mind, this dude is a 50-year-old Middle Eastern man, but I was so shook up at the time I was just like, what the hell, okay. We get out, exchange info, he gives me his personal insurance, took pics, and said that we would be in contact about next steps. I filed a claim literally an hour later because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do, not like what this guy tries to ducking pull. He contacted me that night and asked that we figure this out between ourselves, that he's a nice, reasonable guy, that he just graduated law school. I don't know how this was relevant in our conversation, maybe him trying to imply he'll get me, that he has no money, blah blah. I was like, oh. I already filed the claim, and immediately his tone changed and he got all upset. I knew that he was going to duck me over. His insurance company called me a few days later saying that their client hadn't filed a claim yet and only knew because my adjuster contacted his adjuster to inform them of the accident. So they asked for my side of the story, which I gave honestly. They told me that they are obligated to give their client 14 days to contact them back before making a judgment. This was already 4 days after the accident and I was like, what the hell, this driver is sketchy as duck. A few days later I get the call from their insurance. They determined that liability was 100% on me. This mother-ducking driver lied about everything. He lied where the accident occurred, lied about coming out of a parking lot, and claimed that the damage occurred when I merged into his lane. He even claimed that there were no passengers in the car. I was furious. How can he just try to pull this crap on me? The pictures obviously show the damage, and his story doesn't even make sense for the damage done. He probably thought that he lucked out because he was a 50-year-old man and I was a 20-something girl, that he would be able to use my inexperience against me. Well, duck that crap, get wrecked, son. My insurance company tried to reason with his adjuster, but because no witnesses or dash cam, it became a he said she said battle. But my adjuster wouldn't give up. She was like, duck it, he didn't have Uber, Lyft stickers on his car. But let's just file a claim for both and see who contacts us back and try to poke holes in his story. And lo and behold, Uber contacted us back. They asked me about the accident and I was like, so here's the deal. This dude didn't give me his Uber insurance, he gave me his personal insurance. So I'm just here asking if you can confirm he was working for Uber at the time, because he's straight up lying to his personal insurance. And the Uber adjuster was like, okay, this is a different situation because we thought this was a by-the-book accident, so now I have to go back to Uber and file an inquiry for more info. That was a week ago. On Monday, I get a call back from Uber confirming that he had passengers in the car at the time and that he was driving for Uber during the accident. Oh hell yes. I call my adjuster, who then calls the driver's personal car insurance adjuster to let them know that this crap is about to go down. My adjuster calls me back and basically says that his personal insurance is dropping their claim, their only focus now is to get the money back that they gave for his repairs. My adjuster then tells me that the driver essentially committed insurance fraud by lying about everything, and that he could have been trying to double-dip both Uber and his own personal insurance, and that now, this dude has a whole set of other issues to deal with. She tells me that his personal insurance is going to be contacting Uber and getting more info before moving on. But I get the impression that this dude is ducked. Got a call from Uber literally yesterday after I sent in estimates for my repair, and they're going to hook me up next week with a rental car and pay for my repairs as soon as possible. I'm so thrilled and had the biggest justice boner ever, and it was fantastic. I know I was lucky because if it wasn't for those two passengers, I likely would have been ducked. I only have liability insurance, and I'm definitely going to invest in dash cams. But damn, this was a journey for my first accident. I'm going to be living off this schadenfreude for the entire year. The last on is titled, Payback for an Abuser. I'm a caregiver who has spent the last 2 years battling an abusive patient. This person is a relative and lives with me. Prior to December of last year, I was willing to keep him in my home, but between Christmas and New Year's Eve it became clear that he belongs in a nursing home. Unfortunately, I live in a state that won't remove a patient from the home if there is someone else in the home willing to continue caring for him. I'll be blunt, and it won't be pretty. Months ago he developed recurrent diarrhea, which usually occurs at night. The bathroom is on the other side of the house from his room. In December he had a bout of diarrhea so severe that his bedroom floor and the floors throughout the house ended up with feces all over them. I was recovering from a knee injury and couldn't clean up after him, although I did help him dispose of his pajamas, which were beyond washing, and clean the feces off his body. He promised to clean the floors, including his bedroom carpet. The next day I went to his room to wake him, as I always do, and he shouted for me not to come in because he hadn't finished cleaning his carpet. To cut to the chase, he refused to clean his own shit off his bedroom carpet for 2 days. Again, this man clearly belongs in a nursing home, but the state won't put him in one, not because he's capable of independent living. Caseworkers from several agencies have stated that he isn't, but because he has someone in the home to care for him, me. At this time there is no way I can have him removed from the house. I have spoken to multiple state agencies as well as lawyers. The only legal recourse is to provide irrefutable evidence to a large group of people, such as the staff at the sleep center, that he's incapable of self-care. The only other option offered by the state at this time was a suggestion that I should be the one to leave. In that event, they would send people in regularly to monitor him and gather evidence of his incompetence. They would then remove him, having no choice if I'm not in the home to care for him, and I could return to my house. I'm not leaving my house, and I'm sure as hell not leaving him alone in my house. Not even temporarily. That's non-negotiable. So, Tomorrow night he has a sleep study and will be at the sleep center overnight. I decided today that I'm going to serve something very spicy for dinner tomorrow night. If he gets diarrhea at the sleep center, he won't be able to control himself. The medical team at the sleep center will have visible proof of what I've been telling his care team since December. This person is nothing but an overgrown infant who needs constant supervision. I want to stress that this man has put me through living hell. He has threatened to have my animals put down, to ruin me financially, and to find a way to take my house from me. He calls me terrible names. He has stolen heirloom jewelry from my room. There isn't a single day that passes that he doesn't insult me and degrade me in every way he can. I always looked very young for my age. In the last year I have aged at least a decade. My physical health is ruined. I have severe high blood pressure and anxiety attacks due to the persistent abuse. This man is a monster and I will have justice even if I have to get it myself. Thanks for listening.